Perfecto, namaste. This is Asanist Fire. I'm here on the way of Dharma, and today we'll be talking about supernatural powers. There's a person who commented in my previous live video. Is it a live video or is it the video that I did with Efe? I can't quite remember. But the person asked me and requested me to talk about supernatural powers. Very rich history and very rich vocabulary and literature and teachings we have of supernatural powers in Sanatana Dharma. Now, if you are new, please subscribe to the Way of Dharma and like and share the content that you are about to receive and the content that you previously seen. Today we'll be talking about the supernatural powers. Now, before we continue, I'd like for us to work in harmony with one another, harmony with the ones that we are about to enlighten, harmony with the entire world, harmony with the universe, harmony with the plants, harmony with the Prithvi Tattva, which is the earth, harmony with the water Tattva, which is, I can't quite remember, harmony with the Agni Tattva, which is fire, harmony with the Vayu Tattva, which is air. I think water is apas. So yes, also harmony with the Akasha Tattva, which is symbolized as the sky. Now let us continue. Supernatural powers. You surely heard of those Indian guys, rishis and siddhas that came before us, the yogis that came before us, ones who have reached a certain level of attainment, an attainment of supernatural power, an attainment of bliss, an attainment of union with true self. Siddhis, supernatural powers, are just a side effect of someone's sadhana. If you do miraculous things, it's just a side effect of your sadhana. As I've mentioned in the previous video about Kundalini, when you activate prana, when prana starts to flow in a certain way around the body, you get to activate the latent qualities that you have as a person. And as a result, some of your superpowers start to rise above the surface, and then you are perceived as someone with superpowers. Now we have a culture, a rich culture in the tradition of Sanatana Dharma. These supernatural powers are not called supernatural powers in Sanskrit. They are called Siddhis. And someone who has these supernatural powers can be noted or called a Siddha. A Siddhi is the supernatural power. One who has attained those supernatural powers is a Siddha. And then we also have another name that I like to call a lot in Sanatana Dharma. We call it Maha. Maha means great. So Maha Siddha, meaning the great one who has attained supernatural powers. How do we attain supernatural powers in the Sanskrit teachings of Sanatana Dharma? Well, the first most easiest way is by utterance or recitation of a mantra. Mantras can give you supernatural powers after you recite them to a certain number, 1 lakh times, which can be 1 million times. And then the first level of supernatural power, or rather, first level of starting to make the prana flow effectively to be perceived as somebody who has superpowers. You can have superpowers of manifestation, superpowers of being able to stay hot in the cold, superpowers of concentration, and etc. and infinite, basically. So these are basically the first levels you get to perceive when you start to recite mantra 10,000 times, and then it goes on and on into even much greater supernatural powers. It is still the same. You can do it merely and easily by mantra japa, which is recitation or utterance of the mantra. There's 3 ways to utter mantra, basically. There's even more. There's many ways to do mantra recitation. In the Tibetan culture of Buddhism, you have recitation of mantra via prayer wheel. You turn a prayer wheel which is written a certain mantra. They say it is equivalent to the oral power of reciting mantra. It's like saying it Om Namah Shivaya. It's like saying it out loudly. Now before we continue, let us invoke the peace to everyone, everything that we're living around, and harmony in general in the whole universe. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti to the Bhutas and the Pretas and the Pishacha. Shanti to the Rakshasa. Shanti to the Yakshasa. Shanti to the Navagraha. Shanti to the Devas and Devatas. Shanti to Mahadevi. Shanti to the Siddhas and Yogis. Shanti to the Yoginis. Shanti to the Chatusasta Yogini Pyo. And Shanti to everything and everyone around us, even those of a low vibration and animal nature, basically. So now let us continue. There's 3 ways to recite mantra. You can either do it mentally, ajap. You can also do it just in a low voice. Ajap would be like this. I'm reciting it in my mind, and then reciting it in a low tone would be Om Namah Shivaya, so that it can be heard only by those that are near you or those that can read your lips as you recite it. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. There's also a very, very coarse way to recite mantra. Om Namah Shivaya. It can be heard by anyone around the vicinity of the whereby the mantra is being chanted, basically. That's the closest way. You have 3 manifestations of consciousness, or manifestations of, you have different vibrations of things, basically, of frequency. You have the sattva, you have rajas, and then you have tamas. The sattvic would be likened to the mental recitation of jap, of mantra, and then the rajas would be likened to Om Namah Shivaya, reciting it in a low voice, and then the tamasic, the cross, would be likened to Om Namah Shivaya, utterance of mantra very, very loudly. They say that the most superior of all would be the mental recitation of mantra. So to reach supernatural powers, the easiest way would be to say it mentally. Just carry a jap mala daily, each and every day, and then recite mantra wherever you are. You'll start to perceive something inside of you. You'll start to develop supernatural powers at a low level. Basically, the first unfoldment of the superpowers will be recognized. Maybe if you choose a mantra for manifestation, you'd recite it, and then you'd perceive your luck improving, and you perceive yourself being able to attract and manifest things at ease, basically. The fastest way to do this, to attain supernatural powers, is to get a guru. Om Guru Bhyo Namaha. And then that guru would then give you a mantra for you to recite, a special mantra for you to recite based on the temperament of or the personality and the mind that you have, basically. A guru is useful for that. They can see your character, they can see your personality, they can see what quality of a mind that you have, and then they can give you a mantra based on those things, and that will accelerate your spiritual growth, and you will develop supernatural powers much faster. However, it is advised in Swami Shivananda's books, who is also a Siddha, I'd like to say, a Siddha, who is also a Siddha, who taught yoga in the Bihar School of Yoga. So he says that mantra, supernatural powers are just a side effect, and no focus should be placed on it because it's a supernatural, it's a side effect, basically. I remember when chanting mantras, or whenever I do sadhana strong, I get so attractive, and I get to attract females. Females and money are just a side effect to my sadhana. And then what happens? I get attracted to them. I get attracted by the senses and I focus on them. And then as soon as I stop my sadhana, all those things vanish away. So I have to keep a focus on my sadhana, keep consistency in my sadhana, and not focus on the side effects that I experience. Or rather, even when I get such results and side effects, what should I do? I should be detached to those results and side effects and then continue on my way and continue on my sadhana. That would be vital for my growth, basically. So supernatural powers are more like those things. And then at a certain point, when you have neglected your sadhana, you can lose those supernatural powers. That is what is being said by the Yoga Sutras and what is being said by Swamiji Shivananda. So yes, let us continue. Another way to attain supernatural powers is by practice of asana. Asana, also known as yoga poses. Have you seen those guys that do scorpion poses and other advanced poses? Those guys, they do not know that they have supernatural power. Just by mastering a certain asana to a certain degree, you are able to control the mind. You are able to awaken some of the latent qualities and dormant supernatural powers that you have within you. It is said in a story by Sadhguru that there was a man who was only mastering one asana, and then he was able to jump off a double story or a second floor. Is it a third floor? Second floor or third floor balcony, and then landed. He was old, about 70 or 80 something. He was able to jump down and land on his head or on his spine, and he was able to be alive and live. I also have a certain experience in my life. I dedicated my path. Oh, man, I don't like talking about myself, man, especially when these things are personal. But okay, there's an asana that I practice and that I do with utmost accuracy, and it was able to actually strengthen my will to a point whereby I got beaten up by the mob and I came out almost not experiencing any hurt and damage, basically. So another way to experience and activate those supernatural powers within you is asana, by the practice of asana. Find yourself an asana, one you are comfortable with, and then practice it until you see results. You will definitely reach a level of mastery and you will have some of your supernatural powers unfolded unto you, basically. Another way, which is the best way, basically, is by way of pranayama. Wherever we go, whether we do Kundalini yoga, we do Raja yoga, we do Bhakti yoga, we do Laya yoga, Swara yoga, we will encounter the subject of breath. Swara yoga is something else. It's much more based on the breath, basically. There's a very, very advanced art of breathing that you learn to do in Swara yoga. And much of it is so esoteric and is so away and secluded from the public that that few books are actually written on the subject. But wherever you go, you will encounter pranayama, one of the highest spiritual practices. By way of pranayama, you can activate all the minor siddhis and the 8 siddhis. They are basically minor supernatural powers.
Done faster than ever.
Man, you see now.
Just love that.
Yes, let us continue. Yes, I got disturbed by my YouTube, basically. I was watching something, and then yes. So wherever you go, you encounter the subject of pranayama. Controlling breath can actually activate all the minor siddhis and the major siddhis. We have minor siddhis, and major siddhis. Let us talk first about the 8 major siddhis, ones that are that are experienced at a much later advanced stage of sadhana, basically. So the major siddhis are what? Anima. The yogi can become as minute as he pleases. Mahima. This is the opposite of anima. He can be as big as he likes. Meaning anima, you could be as small, microscopic, and you can be the size of a microorganism, basically. You do have stories of such things. I will talk more about it as we proceed into the subject, basically. This is actually one of the things that attracted me. That attracted me to Sanatana Dharma. You know, man, siddhis, especially when you learn that you can actually get supernatural powers from mere mantra recitation and breath control. This is what attracted me. That's the ambitious side of it. So yes, let's talk more about it. Then you have Laghima. Okay, it is said that he can become as big as he likes, the yogi. He can make his body assume a very large size. He can fill up the whole universe. He can assume a Virat Swarupa. Yes, a big, large. Like you can be the size of the universe. You can even be bigger than it by this major power, Siddhi. And then you have Laghima. He can make his body as light as cotton or feather. This I've experienced in pranayama. It was like 2 seconds of it. I'm not saying that I've unfolded that state of siddhi in my sadhana, but I've experienced being light almost to a point of levitation, basically. When you do kumbhaka, you retain prana to a certain degree. There's a certain quiet space that you feel, and then a certain lightness, and then you go like, I don't know, maybe it's the utterance of Om that they talk about when they say that you'll start to utter Om and then you'll hear sounds, you'll start to feel light, basically. It's a very, very pleasant feeling. You can become as light as a feather or cotton. Yes. And then they say Vayustamphanam is done through this siddhi. In Jalastamphanam, also the power is exercised to a very small degree. The body is rendered by light Plavini Pranayama, and then the yogi produces a diminution of his specific gravity by swallowing drafts of air. The yogi travels in the sky with the help of this siddhi. He can travel thousands of miles in a minute with the help of this siddhi, this help of lightness. Beware, guys. This is real, and you get to experience part of these things when you do pranayama, when you do your sadhana. And then there's also what? There's garima, the opposite of laghima. You can become as heavy and sluggish as you want, and then you can increase the specific amount of gravity, and then you can make the body as heavy as a mountain by swallowing drafts of air. This is the opposite of laghima. Basically, this one you can use it for defeating your opponents. You get somebody who has a very, very light body, and then he's able to defeat somebody of a larger stature. It's because of this siddhi. And then you get some people that you can't raise off the ground, like the story of Angaji. Yes, Angaji. This is the guy who was doing Indian martial arts, Kalaripayat, and then he has a stance, Angaji stance. This guy can stand on that stance. He can't be removed by anyone, basically. He can't be removed by anyone. Even if you can come with a truck and then you bump into him, he won't move. This is the Garima Siddhi. And then you have what? You have Prapti. The yogi standing on the earth can touch the highest things. He can touch the sun, moon, or the sky. Through this siddhi, the yogi attains his desired objects and supernatural powers. He acquires the power of predicting future events, the power of clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, thought reading, etc. He can understand the language of the beasts and the birds. He can understand the unknown languages also. He can cure all diseases, basically. Okay, this one I don't know much about it, but it is said in the description. Then you have Prakamya, yes. He can dive into water and come out at any time he likes. Now, this is the very, very powerful one that I like, from a very, very, very Mahasiddha, Mahayogi. It is said here, and come out anytime he likes. The late Swami Trailanga, Swami of Benares, used to live for 6 months underneath the Ganges in the Ganga River, basically. It is a process by which a yogi makes himself invisible. Sometimes it is said that Swami Trailanga was invisible at some points in his times. Yes, I'll talk more about the story of Swamiji Trailanga, and then I'll do a video. I'll dedicate a video especially for him. It'll be about 10 minutes. Yes, I think so. And then it is the process. It is, yes, by some writers, it is defined by the power of entering the body of another. Prakaya Pravesh. Sri Shankara entered the body of Raja Amaruka of Benares. Tirumula in southern India entered the body of a shepherd. Raja Vikramaditya also did this. It is also the power of keeping a youth-like appearance for any length of time. Raja Yayati had this power. Swami Trailanga lived for almost 200 years. I think it's 180 something, or no, I think it's 200 years basically. It is clear that this guy had this Siddhi. He was a Siddha in this power. So then we have Vashidvam. This is the power of taming wild animals. Also Swami Trailanga had this one, and bringing them under control. It is the power of mesmerizing persons by the exercise of will and making them obedient to one's own wishes and orders. It is the restraint of passions and emotions. It is the power to bring men and women and the elements under subjugation. So now what's going on with my laptop now? Yes, let us continue. Man, you see now. It is, yes, you up under subjection and subjugation, basically. And then you have Ishidvam. It is the attainment of divine power. The yogi becomes the lord of the universe. The yogi who has this power can restore his life, can restore life to the dead. Swami Trailanga also had this power. And then yes, basically. And then we have the minor siddhis, ones that are of a lower nature than the major siddhis. The yogi acquires the following minor siddhis. Also have, yes, these minor siddhis are freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from the effects of heat and cold. This one is experienced in the guy, the Iceman, who is called, what's his name? Wim Hof. Yes, he can't. He's free from the effects of heat and cold, basically. And then there's freedom from Ragad Vesha, Dura Darshan, and or clairvoyance, or Dura Drishti. And then Dura Sravan, clairaudience. Yes, clairaudience. Clear audience. You get to have clear audience. And then there's Manojaya, control of mind. Kamarupa, the yogi can take any form he likes. And then there's Prakaya Pravesha, he can enter the body of another and animate a dead body. Yes, but yes. And then there's Ichamrityu, death at his will. And then there's Devanam Saha, Krida and Darshana, meaning playing with the gods after seeing them. And then you can get Yatha Sankalpa, meaning you can fulfill any desire you like. And then you have Trikalanyana, knowledge of past, present, and future. These are common siddhis, basically. You have people that you live with every day that have these siddhis, these minor siddhis. And then you get Advanva, beyond the pairs of opposites, meaning you are above duality. And then you have Vak siddhi, whatever the yogi predicts will come to pass by the practice of Satya, prophecy. You have prophets, basically. The yogi can turn base metal into gold, which is alchemy. which is a form of magic basically. And then there's Kaya Vyuha, taking as many bodies as the yogi likes to exhaust all his karmas in one life. The one of living longer is also another form of cleaning your karma in one lifetime. The Siddhi for getting into another body is also used for this type of evasion of karma basically. You get an Aghora Baba or an Aghori Baba who wants to have sex basically, and then he possesses a husband, which then later gives himself credit. The husband gives himself credit for the sexual act, and then the Aghori Baba, in a very, very smart and cunning way, can actually escape the actions that he did, the karma of his actions basically. And then you have Darduri Siddhi, which is the jumping power of a frog basically. Patala Siddhi, the yogi becomes lord of desire, destroys souls and diseases. He gets knowledge of his past, he gets knowledge of the cluster, yes, and planets and stars. He gets the power of perceiving the siddhas, meaning you can perceive the siddhas. He gets mastery of the elements, Bhuta Jaya, mastery of Prana Jaya. Then you have Kamachari, he can move to any place he likes. He gets omnipotence and omniscience. And then you have Vayu Siddhi. The yogi rises in the air and leaves the ground. He can point out the place where a hidden treasure lies. Those are the minor siddhis that you have, that you can attain. Those are the minor supernatural powers basically. And then let us talk about the guys that the siddhas that are recognized in this book, Kundalini Yoga by Swamiji Shivananda. I'd like to, before we continue about any other siddha that we are going to talk about, Hanumanji, Shri Hanumanji, the monkey god, actually has all these siddhis basically. So I'd like to bow down to Hanumanji. Very, very powerful character, very, very powerful god, very resilient, very courageous, very brave, and very, very devoted. Om Namo Bhagavati Anjaniyaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Anjaniyaya Mahabalaya Svaha. Om Namo Bhagavati Anjaniyaya Mahabalaya Svaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Anjaniyaya Mahabalaya Swaha. I bow down to Hanumanji. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. I shall talk more about Shri Hanumanji, who is an avatar of Shiva and Vishnu. Very, very devoted to Rama. I'll talk more about Shri Hanumanji. And then you have these guys. You have Sadashiva Brahman, a reputed yogi, lived in Nerur near Karur in Trichinopoli district some 120 years ago. He was the author of Atma Vilas, Brahma Sutras, and other various works. Once he was in Samadhi, the floods of the Kaveri river covered him up with mud. For some months, his body remained buried underneath the earth. The agriculturists tilled the land and injured the head of the yogi. Some blood oozed out. They were quite astonished. They dug out the earth. Sadashiva Brahman got up from his samadhi and walked away. Once some rude people came with sticks to beat him. They raised their hands, but they were not able to move them. They remained like statues. At some other time, he entered the zenana of a Nawab, quite naked, while he was roaming about as an avadhuta. The Nawab got enraged and cut off his hand with a big knife. Sadashiva Brahma went away with a laugh, basically. The Nawab thought that the man should be a great sage. He took the maid hand and followed the sage. On the third day the Nawab said, "Oh my lord, I cut off your hand due to my foolishness. Kindly forgive me." Sadashiva simply touched the cut portion with the other hand. There was a new hand. Sadashiva forgave the Nawab and blessed him, basically. And then you have the second Siddha, Jnanadeva. Shri Jnanadeva is also known as Jnaneshwari, who was the greatest yogin the world has ever seen, has ever produced. He was born in Alandi, miles from Purna. His samadhi is there even now. Even anybody reads the Gita written by him by the side of the samadhi, all the doubts are cleared, basically. He is regarded as an avatar of Lord Krishna. When he was a boy, he simply touched a buffalo. It repeated the Vedas. He had full control over the elements. When there was no vessel to prepare food, his sister prepared bread on his back. He entered samadhi while alive at the age of 22. He drew up all the prana to the Brahmarandra and gave up the physical body when he was a boy of 14 years. He began to write commentary on the Gita. His commentary on the Gita is considered one of the best in a big assembly of Sanskrit Pandits in Benares. He was selected president. Basically, there's a sound that I don't quite understand. Oh, I think it's this charger. Okay, I think so. Let us solve it. We've solved it. And then there's Swami Trailanga. Swami Trailanga of Benares was born in Andhra Desa, lived some 50 years ago. He lived for 208 years, basically. I said 200, but it's 208 years. He made his tapas in Manasarova, which is Tibet. Once Ramakrishna Paramahansa also saw him at Benares. You see, man, even Ramakrishna Paramahansa saw this guy, the way he lived so long. He brought some money to Benares when he first came in for tapas, and he opened up a milk shop and distributed milk to poor peasants, sadhus and sannyasis. He used to live under the Ganga water even for 6 months continuously. He used to sleep in Kashi Vishwanath's temple, keeping his feet over the Shiva Linga. Once he caught hold of the sword of the governor and threw it into the Ganges. When the governor demanded it back, he dived into the water and brought back 2 swords, and the governor was unable to find out his own sword. Some mischief makers poured some lime water in his mouth. He once pumped it out through the anus by Sang Pachar Kriya. You see, Swami Trailanga. Om Swami Trailanga Yay Namaha. I'm sorry, guys. I'm checking some things here. There's some things that I don't quite understand. I'm sorry. But let us continue. And then there's Swami Krishna Ashram. Nah, man. Let's not talk about these guys. It's going to take long now. Another of the yogis, we have who? We have Mahayogi Goraknath. Mahayogi Goraknath is a very, very powerful yogi who came under Matsyanandrath. Matsyanandrath, the glory of what's that asana? Is it Matsyasana? The asana of the fish. Or yes, and then Goraknath came under Matsyanandrath. Matsyanandrath was a powerful guru, but then he came and then he taught Mahayogi Goraknath. Mahayogi Goraknath came to surpass the guru, and then he was said to be an incarnation of Lord Mahadeva or of Lord Shiva. He came after Matsyanandrath. Maybe he was an incarnation or an avatar of Lord Shiva. So he was very powerful. He once stayed in an asana, a very, very tough asana. I'll show it on the screen. A very, very tough asana for 30 something years. And then he basically was that powerful. Some stories are said about his Diksha. I don't know if it's Matsyanandrath or it's Goraknath, but yes, I think it's Goraknath. He wanted to teach students, and then there were like, I think there were 10 of the students that he wanted to initiate. And then, oh no, he didn't want to initiate. These students came to him for initiation, and then he told them to climb up a tree, and then he told them to throw themselves down. And then out of the 10, only one threw himself down. And the one that threw himself down was caught by some magical power of Mahayogi Goraknath. And then he was later the student of Mahayogi Goraknath. Yes, guys. So that's it on the powers of the supernatural powers, the siddhis, the minor siddhis and the major siddhis. It is possible to attain these. It is possible they are there by mantra japa, pranayama, yoga asana, and continuous sadhana. That is the path that we are striving for. That's where we want to see ourselves. We have people currently living in this earth who do these miraculous feats. You have Wim Hof, who I believe is a siddha, a yogi, who has a minor siddhi of some sort of being able to stay long periods in cold conditions. If you go to India, there's some people that can levitate. This is one of the minor siddhis. And then you have those that can animate a dead body. You find it even in the aghoras. You have so many powerful people. And then you have another person who is Abdullah. He had siddhis. He comes from Ethiopia, whereby there was so much racism in America. He was able to live high. Basically, he got whatever he wanted. More on him, you can actually learn more on him from Neville Goddard, the teachings of Neville Goddard. He talks a lot about Abdullah from Ethiopia, who I believe is one of the siddhas of this lifetime. And then also, you have, yes, these siddhis are very accessible to each and everyone, but then we must check the quality of the people that we reveal this knowledge to. It is possible to have supernatural powers. It is possible in Sanatana Dharma to attain siddhis. It is possible to be a siddha by continuous sadhana, by continuous repetition of mantra japa, by continuous recitation of, no, not recitation, by continuous practice of pranayama and the sadhana of asana, basically daily practice of sadhana. So guys, I'd like to thank you. Please like, subscribe and share the content that I have shared with you. On the next video, I will talk about some other siddhas, and I will also talk about Swamiji Trailanga, and I will also talk about the effects of this Sanatana Dharma and Buddhism mantra. Very powerful things. These should not be messed with. The effects of mantra can be very permanent, and they should not be dabbled with if you don't know what you are doing, or if you are not truthful to yourself, because the energy will only come back to nyam you, to bite you, basically. So be careful when approaching this, and make sure that you are truthful. If you are not careful, if you don't care, at least make sure that you are truthful, so that you can get safe and not hurt by these practices. So guys, I'd like to leave you and give you peace. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you everyone. Thank you.